and welcome to Do Whatever You Think Whatever You Do. I'm your host, Darryl Scott, and today with me I have a special guest, Mr. Tom Bescher. Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, a contractor, consultant, been an entrepreneur about 23 years. My first business was a wellness center, life coaching. I've been into wellness for a long time, and when I heard about your podcast, I was excited to come on.
Yeah, thank you for having.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
So, yes, what you said, today's topic will be about mainstream media and the effects that it has on your mental wellness. Yes, so before we get into it, let's actually discuss the definition of wellness. And here it says, wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better physical and mental health outcomes so that instead of just surviving, you're thriving. To understand the significance of wellness, it's important to understand how it's linked to health. So, what do you think?
Very good definition.
Yeah. So, what do you think mainstream media is doing that is combating wellness?
Wow, that's we could talk for hours on that. I think it's interesting whenever I think about a question like that is what is the objective of mainstream media?
Yeah.
A lot of us feel that the objective is to give us the news, inform us, give us facts. Mm-hmm. But if you watch two different stations, if you watch Fox or CNN, you're getting two completely different messages. So if we're obviously not getting the facts from at least one or two, or maybe probably both of them.
Yes.
And when I hear about it, I hear that I like to use the word outrage porn. So porn has more than just the sexual connotation.
Yes.
It means anything that you obsess about.
Yes.
That is detrimental, right?
Yeah.
And so outrage, I find that a lot of people, when they're watching a lot of mainstream, they get outraged. And obviously, if you're looking for that definition of wellness, is amazing. Outrage doesn't create harmony.
Yeah.
Both inside for yourself and with your relationship with others. It's divisive.
Yeah. So how do you think we got to this point where the mainstream media is playing such this position of keeping us in a state of worry and fear?
Well, obviously there are people that profit off of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, people that profit off of that, divisive, that fear, the fear mongering. Over time, much like the oil companies have merged into, there's only a few oil companies, there's only a few real mainstream media platforms where they've all kind of combined. So it only takes a small amount of people to control what we see on the mainstream media. And if their goal is to create fear and divisiveness, it's not very difficult for them to do that. They control it. I don't know if you've ever seen these memes or these videos where you'll see all throughout the nation where these newscasters will be saying the same message over and over and over again, as if they're almost like puppets where they're being told to say the same message over and over again.
Okay, so with me, because I've lived in a couple of other countries, and some of these other countries, actually, I've noticed here that the media, the news, is something that they don't pay so much attention to in other countries. Here,
really?
It's like, here it's definitely something, like you said, they know that it's something that you can make money off of, so they kind of push it. And
control a narrative.
But there would be certain stations that people would focus on where they feel that they're getting the quote-unquote real news. What do you think about this? Do you think that there are places that are coming on television, let's talk there first, that might be spewing the correct information or as close as possible?
I think America's trust in the mainstream media is at an all-time low, and I think that's very, as far as if there are any mainstream media outlets that are giving truth.
Yeah. Here in the country, you don't think?
Listen, I don't trust much that comes from our government. I don't trust much that comes out of mainstream media. I think I think you really have to find, I have no other word than say freedom. I mean, true press, truth is freedom. Yeah. And that's why freedom of the press was in the Bill of Rights. Yeah. But when that press is owned by moneyed interests that are also influence our government, and that mainstream media is, you're so much better off finding people that you trust over social media and getting your facts from them.
Okay, but how would we, if they know that they're controlling it with the money? I mean, how do we change this?
How do you change the mainstream media?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. There are the way that we consume content and media right now is shifting. It used to be the radio. It used to be newspaper, then radio, then TV.
Yeah.
Now it's our phones.
Yeah.
So the day of mainstream media, if you look at the television ratings for CNN, Fox has a little bit more, but they're depreciating dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that we receive content is through streaming, is through podcast. This is the way that most Americans are. I do feel like they're still holding on this mainstream media, and their messages still get out. I mean, the political debates are going to be on the same CBS, NBC, and ABC, and all that jazz, and their political commentators putting their spin on it.
Yes.
But the solution for it is always privatization. So as soon as you have a centralized media, a centralized government, it's so much easier to corrupt it.
But didn't these media outlets start off as privatizations?
Well, yeah, they were 100%. It was you had a lot of individual news stations competing for the nation's attention, and unbiased news was something that people held on to. Plus, there was something called journalism.
Yes.
And journalism was communicating the truth to people.
Yeah.
There was a pride in that.
Yes.
And those days have come and gone.
Yeah,
I mean, those true journalists are independent, and they're operating on X and Instagram and the social media platforms. Those independent journalists, in the main, are not working for a mainstream media.
Which brings us to social media now. So we have this incredible way where we can get real-time news. We can not only hear it, we can see it.
Sure.
Because people can film with their phones and post real-time when it's happening. But we also have people that can edit these videos. So how do we stop this?
How do we stop the editing of the truth?
Yeah, because we can say that we'll get more of the truth more in real time, but people still can edit things and make things look like, and then we have AI, we have all this technology that's coming in. So how would we stop,
Well, I mean, I think even the mainstream media has manipulated what's happening overseas to get more and more Americans to buy into international wars.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But if you're talking about if there is some type of incident that happens out in the world, people can doctor up a video.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's, listen, AI is a real thing. I as far as people being able to skew an event and getting people to think that one thing happened when really something else happened.
I mean, now they can even, copy your voice, and they can, edit the video to make your lips move the way they want it to. I mean, it's so much.
It's
they're only getting better.
No, I hear that. And it's interesting because I really feel that in the main, more connects us than divides us.
Yeah.
But if you watch the mainstream media, you would think that we're ready for civil war.
Yeah.
But going about
maybe because they are ready for civil war with each other.
Well, they would like civil war, sure. Yeah. I mean, a nation divided is a lot easier to control.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and you really get out there and you talk to people, you really see that we all want the same things. We want a thriving economy. Mm-hmm. We want peace. We don't want war.
Yeah.
There are some very basic things that we want good educational systems for our kids, and it more connects us than not, and more of us are honorable. I mean, I've been in business for 23 years, and people pay their bills. People honor agreements.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
You can always go back to that. So the idea there's this proliferation of people trying to distort videos to do that. You'll have a fringe sort of people doing that, but
it'll be a small number.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But as far as mainstream media, man, so many times I've gone on retreats, no cell phone, no TV, 10 days. My God.
How was it?
I felt unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that. I mean, if you go on Channel 6 News or Channel 7 News, you're hearing about
gunshots.
Everything.
The first 15 to 20 minutes is definitely going to be all the negative things.
Yeah, you might get it. You might get the sports
definitely.
Right and the weather.
And the weather.
Yes.
And the weather is usually something negative too. If they're jumping on right now with an emergency, it's because there's going to be a thunderstorm or a snowstorm or excessive heat, something like this.
I'd say if there's one suggestion on wellness, stop watching the news, and you'll be happier after a week.
Okay. Yeah. Now, which brings me to the next question. If people are not watching the news, but they want to be, current with what's happening.
It's a good question because, one of the, I really dislike the divisiveness of how our country's going. And even when you go to social media, I feel that there are so many influencers that go into what I call the outrage porn, where they dial in whether that you're a Republican or Democrat, and they're dialing into that outrage and just trying to keep pushing that to get clicks. And it's not healthy. So again, if one really wants to get into the political sphere, if that's one side of the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that really get understanding as far as what's happening in politics. Because if you really follow what's happening in our country, both people, Republicans and Democrats, are leading us down the wrong. I mean, if you ask Americans, I think the polls will show it. They do. The greater percentage of Americans feel that our government is corrupt.
Yeah.
Right. So if we feel our government is corrupt, why are we so proud of one team or another? Meaning Republicans or Democrats. We have a corrupt government.
Believe it or not, a lot of them think that this is all they have.
Right. I think it's something to hold on to. But if you really think with a critical mind, hey, listen, if we have a corrupt government, we have to clean up the government.
Yeah.
What we're hearing about, and most of the political leaders that we're sitting there following, or that's on our team, so to speak, you wouldn't be proud of them if you really knew what they thought and what their intentions were. So that's one thing. As far as, so how do you combat that? I think you try to get knowledgeable about politics if that's your game, as far as that. Other than that, what's the value of mainstream news or media?
I think that the citizens of this country, they put a lot of trust in the government.
Yes.
Like you said, that people need to be more involved in what's happening within the government system.
100%.
I honestly don't believe that many people feel that they need to do that. Not necessarily want to. They probably never thought about if they wanted to or not, because they didn't feel that they wanted to trust that the people that they were putting in office were doing the right things.
Yeah,
So, and
have you ever heard of the nanny state?
No.
So the nanny state is a derogatory name that people will call the U.S. government, right? The nanny state, or like any nanny state, or Big Brother is another. Big Brother is the government's watching on you, controlling actions. Nanny state is they're taking care of you. So yes, you have these elected officials that are your representatives that are taking care of you, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. There is a certain amount of automaticity. It's all taken care of, and I just got to worry about my own life.
Yes.
And that's a slippery slope where
you
get farther and farther away from being able to have an influence. And
we are witnessing now how slippery of a slope.
People are apathetic about it. They don't. I mean, if you ask most people about their influence on the government, they say it's just one vote. And their voice is small, which again is a very disempowering feeling, and it's not going to lead towards wellness. It's not. I mean, we want to feel empowered in every relationship we have, at work, at home, and with our friends, and relationships we have. I think with the mainstream media, if you listen to it, it keeps pounding down that you're the effect of what's happening internationally and nationally.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling.
And this is a propaganda,
100%.
So, I mean, that's what we have to figure out. How do we combat this? This is the only thing. Like,
Well, I think number one is it's never as bad as they make it out to be.
yeah,
Not to say that there isn't dramatic changes that we need to make to the government, but if you know that the objective of mainstream media is to stoke fear and divisiveness, then you're watching it and saying, oh, they're looking to divide, right? And if you have that understanding, most people know it, but they just continue to consume it.
because something that you did say before, which I think what they will do, which is very smart of them, is they'll intermingle truth with propaganda. They'll mix fear with, they give you, I guess,
Snippets.
snippets, exactly.
Yeah.
And they give you a complete, platter of snippets
100%.
to draw every
yeah.
person in,
I mean, we could even make a little bit of a tangent here and talk about our American education system.
Yeah.
School system. What do you feel about the education system?
Again, this is something that needs some prioritization,
Okay, so over the course of the past 70 years, we keep incrementally spending more and more and more money on education. Yet
But
the
what
standards,
part? Yeah,
yet the
exactly.
standards keep going down.
Yeah, what's the part that they're spending the money on?
And I'm going to give you a name to look up: John Taylor Gatto, Gatto.
Okay.
He was an American school teacher, New York City school teacher of the year, two consecutive years in the 90s.
Okay.
Before he quit. And the reason why he quit is that he started to study the background of the American education system. And the goal of the founders of the American education system, you can remember, a couple hundred years ago, everyone was homeschooled. And then the American education system came around, and it was built by industry titans that were looking to create a nation of workers and consumers that didn't question things. So if civics classes, like, we do not learn how the government really runs and how to be an active part of the government in school.
Yeah.
We don't learn about credit scores.
No.
We don't learn about insurance. We don't learn how to be competent individuals in our society.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to say that our school systems are extremely successful in what they were intended to do.
Got you.
Just like I think the mainstream media is very successful in what it's intended to do.
So, what do you think of the high-powered people that push the school system, the education system? If you're saying this,
Right.
and it makes a lot of sense,
It's wide open. It's wide open information.
I haven't heard
Yeah.
like what you said, but I have thought this. So
course.
it's interesting, and I'm sure other people have. How would these people be playing these, I guess, puppet-like positions?
How did they get to that?
Yeah,
Well, influencing government, right? So they were able to. They had a lot of money, and they were able to. Like, most of our medical institutions are based on a pharmaceutical background, meaning.
But I'm talking about a politician or something, saying that your education is the most important thing. This is what I mean.
Well, I mean, that's a great talking point. I mean, and it is. I mean, education is educating the future of America is, it's vital. I mean, our next generation's being educated. What is more important than that? That's a true statement.
Yeah.
But whether or not our educational systems turn out high caliber individuals that are critical thinkers, that have elite math and reading skills, the answer to that is no.
I like that because now that I think about it, they don't push the educational system. They push education.
Oh, sure.
And this is something that I didn't pay attention to until you just
said. And they'll talk
about it. Makes sense.
And they'll say, hey, we're getting 500 billion more, or 100 billion more, or on a local level, this many billion more. But again, the objective of our school system at its origin was not to create a nation of critical thinkers that with elite knowledge and intelligence and competence. I mean, we've all had that conversation. Why did they ever teach this in school?
Yeah.
And again, it's up to the parents. You said about the political system where someone else is taking care of it. As parents, a lot of us sit there and say, "Oh, the school is taking charge of my child's education."
Yes.
The children that really succeed, it's their parents that are involved. Even in high net worth areas, it's the parents that are involved with the children's education. Because even any education, even in high income areas, those school systems aren't great.
You don't think?
No. I mean, even the system of every 40 minutes you're changing classes. That's not how people learn. People learn by immersing themselves. So if you're in the middle of a complex topic in physics and the bell rings, that's not ideal.
It's true.
You should be immersing yourself. The way our school system was designed, with 30 kids, a teacher, and the bells constantly ringing and switching classes, it was not meant for high caliber learning.
I also think more hands-on is a good way to learn. I mean, I remember, taking science and lab classes or photography, anything where we were actually hands-on doing, you learn it and you understand it so much better. I did shop class. You learned how to, make tables and all this type of stuff.
You're building competencies.
You build, exactly.
As opposed to just digesting knowledge to spit out for a test that you're not going to really use functionally in life. Now,
this used to be something I would say all the time. I would know in school learning some of this stuff. We're never going to discuss this stuff again. Why are we learning it now?
Because they
spend a lot of time on this stuff.
Again, it creates that authoritarian model where you have to digest this, wait until the next class, you'll be told what to learn, what you don't need to learn. You get a test, and you're rewarded for regurgitating what's in the books, not what you're competent in.
Yeah, because then if you dare to think different outside of that, then you're being insubordinate. You all the things that's wrong.
They actually do studies on children that as they get older, their imagination decreases as a direct correlator to how much schooling they've got.
That's interesting.
And their genius levels too. In their genius levels, because yes,
it's been suppressed.
It's been suppressed.
Yeah.
So then you tie that into the mainstream media, where again we were just taught in school just to take authority, consume. The mainstream media consume.
They continue.
And we become a little bit automated. We became a little bit almost like we're very easily being manipulated.
Interesting. Yeah. I never thought about it like that. But
so that's the key thing. I mean, when we're talking about wellness, where I mean, if you're into fitness, if you're into eating healthy, I mean, there's so many. I mean, think about what's pushed on these mainstream media as far as the commercials.
Yeah.
A lot of processed foods and yada yada yada. But you're not. If you eat healthy and you exercise and you consume good information that's not divisive, you're going to move a long ways to that definition you had of wellness.
Yeah. When I was living abroad and just some of the places that I traveled to, you know how they'll say in the Guinness Book of Records, some person here in America that's lived to whatever age they're living to. But they're usually talking about here in America. Outside of America, there are plenty of people living to that age and surpassing. And these are people that are living in remote sections of their countries where they have the animals that they farm, they're growing their own fruit, they don't have to be bothered with anybody, and they stay away from the rest of the world. And these are the people that are happy and living the longest.
Quality of life.
Yeah. So it's definitely true, hearing all of this information that is unnecessary, and that's instilling fear and worry. All of these things are affecting you internally, whether you believe it or not, and it has a lot to do on your longevity of life.
Yeah, and on a local level, what I encourage people to do is find out who their local politicians are, just on a local level, and write them a letter. It feels good to be able to get your message out.
Yeah.
And if you find out some basic things as far as what's going on with the government, and ask them a question as far as what their policies are and what they're doing, and getting yourself educated on it. That's on a political scape. On a national scape, I think if you turn off the mainstream media and just ask and get to know other people.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable to get to know other people. I mean, I know in my work, I love any work that I do and meeting new people and really getting their viewpoints.
Yeah.
Because, we've discussed this and you've said it as far as empathy and developing an understanding for other people. If you listen to just one train of thought, which is what a lot of people get with this outrage porn and just watching CNN or Fox or, the hot button people they watch on social media sometimes, you're getting one train of thought. And if it's not solution oriented, And that's the key thing.
Yeah.
If people are just sitting there saying problem, you should.
They're part of the problem.
They're part of the problem. If you're not talking about solutions, you're part of the problem. That's a good way of putting it.
No, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
All right, so we definitely have to wrap, but it's been a great time talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we definitely got to have you back on.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all for our show today, and until next time, see you.
Think whatever you